Hey, what's up YouTube? Today is actually one of the last days of practicing for the Gauntlet that I'm doing, as it is at Saturday at 8 a.m. I didn't actually know it was so early for me, so it kind of sucks, but here you can see footage of me playing through the campaign again, trying out a different way of doing Toxic Rain. And I decided that Caustic Arrow is actually just too good for clear, and if I'm going to do bosses, I'll just gem swap Toxic Rain instead of having to rely on only using Toxic Rain for mapping. You can see here that it has much better coverage with Caustic Arrow, and it's also a lot more enjoyable to play. So I was happy that I was able to find out about that. So today I'm going to go look at Arc. A lot of people know about Arc as one of the meta skills of the past. It's probably one of people's favorite skills. People have played it in every single form. Arc Mine, Arc Trap, Enki's Arc Witch, and there's just so many different ways of playing it. And it was one of the original skills that people used on aura stackers, as it was usable on a budget, as it did not need malevolence. But even today, people still use Arc, and I'm gonna go look at POE.NINJA and see what's the #1 Arc DPS profile. Maybe it will be an aura stacker, and I can see how he got his damage so high. But before we get into that, I'm going to go over my Toxic Rain build and pretty much the adjustments I've made or for the leveling character, and any tips I have for progressing in the Gauntlet, because I was able to pretty much do this run deathless. I did get whacked by the Blood Aqueduct's bird because I was reading chat, and he crit. But other than that, pretty much a deathless run all the way through. And you can see here I'm doing Expedition, and the answer does lie with Expedition as to how to get really fast progress in the Gauntlet. But let's go into my gear. Right now, this is my character. He's level 45, and he finally finished Kitava. I will include a deathless Kitava kill at the end just to show how bossing goes to this character. But basically, I got a +1 bow a lot earlier this time around. Now, a lot of people wonder, how do you get a +1 bow gem character or a +1 bow? So the trick is kind of like rolling cluster jewels with the aura stacker, and it is you need to get a bow that's really low eye level, and then you can roll it pretty easily with ults. So right here, we want a short bow, and what we want to roll is +1 level of bow gems, and this is at level 9, right? So if you actually get a bow at level 9, and let's see, you want to ult it, and it should be very, very easy. You see, it's like 29 ults on average to hit it, and I'm not sure if this is blocking off certain levels. And here's 57, but this one is 29, and if your bow is super low eye level, I'm not really sure how you can set the eye level of the bow, but you can see it does not take that many ults to do it, and this is without blocking out the other stuff, as this weighting is actually pretty high. So you can see it does not take very many ults to get it, and it's actually very, very low amount of ults if you actually, here we go. So if you actually get a level 9 short bow, you can see it only takes 9 ults and augs in order to get it, and it's very, very useful at the start, and that's how we can get a +1 bow. And I think +1 socket of gems works the same way. It's level 50. But basically, super easy way, and that actually made a huge difference in my leveling run. So in this bow, I have Toxic Rain, Vicious Projectiles, Void Manipulation, Mirage Archer. And let's go to my hideout so I can show how this playstyle actually works. And then the rest of my gear is pretty much all a bunch of rares and more rares of life and resist. Nothing really special. Life resist, move speed, life resist, no resist. This pair of gloves is actually awful. And a quiver with some life and resist. Now, the trick to this character and how you can actually progress through Gauntlet really easily is always do every single expedition. Expedition is actually just overpowered. So you can see here, this is my 2-gem vendor. I can buy more rerolls with Danig. So Danig is actually super strong because you can buy scrap metal, exotic coinage, and Ashragali. Now, the reason why 2-gem is so good is because you can actually get Orb of Bindings very, very early on. So this allows you to get a 4-link very easily, so you can get a 4-link skill, and a 4-link skill gives you a huge power spike, especially for any ability in the game. A 4-link will give you a huge power spike. So whether you're doing Gauntlet or just leveling in general, make sure to do the expeditions. It's pretty useful in SSF for getting a 4-link, and pretty much just giving you some extra currency to play with, as Usually you would not be able to get this many ults so easily. And it's actually just pretty overpowered. I guess Gauntlet is pretty much just going to be an expedition league in terms of doing it over and over again to get the currency. And it does help that the expedition mobs are actually not that overpowered if you don't click on all the remnants. So the remnants that you should be clicking on are probably ones that the monsters are immune to certain types of damage, like immune to fizz, immune to cold, immune to fire. And those are the ones that are going to be easiest because the only damage we do is chaos damage. So, and then those mods on the remnants do not make the mobs actually harder when they come out. So the expedition mobs are actually incredibly easy compared to the Act 1 mobs, which are actually incredibly overtuned. So you can see here, I have Toxic Rain, Focus Ballista, Ballista Totem, and Withering Touch. So the way this works is when you're doing a fight, you want to put your 3 totems down. Every time you shoot, the ballistas will also shoot. And then this Toxic Rain will put on stacks of Wither. And while this Toxic Rain is your main damaging Toxic Rain. So overall, it's kind of like a totem playstyle, except you also shoot stuff yourself. Now I know that people play Tornado Shot with this setup, and I can finally see what they mean by it's not an enjoyable playstyle. Anything that you're probably using in the Gauntlet is probably not going to be that enjoyable of a playstyle, as yeah, the builds are not that fun to play. Like Toxic Rain is definitely not a build I would probably want to play at League Start, even if it is very strong. So in terms of my auras I'm running Arctic Armor and what's it called? And Summon Skitterbots. I'm using Smoke Mine and Flame Dash as my movement skill, and I have a Caustic Arrow and Arrow Nova on swap. So when I'm doing maps, I'll swap in Caustic Arrow and Arrow Nova instead of Void Manipulation. And then so the way that this works with Caustic Arrow is that you shoot it down, and then it pretty much shoots out in like a pentagon shape of Caustic Arrow degen around. So it makes it very, very good for mapping. And it's actually much, much faster for clear speed. However, it's single target, it's a lot worse. So make sure to swap back into Toxic Rain and Arrow Nova when you do the swap. But basically, that's my character. You're able to get through pretty much the game deathless. Make sure to level up if you don't feel as comfortable, because levels are pretty much damage. It gives you damage on a tree, and it also gives you damage on your, on your character. So tomorrow I'll make a guide. I'll release it earlier than usual, and it'll be a full guide for Toxic Rain. I will probably be looking at Darky's profile, as he's the only one I know that has played through the whole game with Toxic Rain in a Gauntlet practice league. But now let's get into Arc and what is the top DPS Arc build in this league, and it might surprise you with the answer. Okay, as per usual, we'll go to POE.NINJA and type in Arc and see what pops up. So, will it be a Hierophant? Who's playing Hierophant? Arc totems? I don't really know, but a Trickster? What? Oh my goodness. How is it a Trickster? Well, I guess I have to do the Trickster. That's quite unexpected. I thought it was going to be an Aura Stacker, but what am I even going to do about this profile? I don't know anything about Tricksters. Okay. Basically, it's a cast on crit Arc character. Are you serious? With Eternity Shroud? Okay, Eternity Shroud's overpowered. How does a Trickster number 1? So basically, Eternity Shroud Arc conversion, right? Arc converts the damage to lightning. Or Arc is lightning, and then it gets converted to cold with the 2 Call of the Brotherhoods. I'm pretty sure he uses cold to fire, and of course he does. So he uses Cast on Crit, Cyclone, Awaken added lightning damage, Arc, Inspiration, and Cold to Fire. So pretty standard stuff. And his staff is a 7-link staff with support gems, Cast on Crit, spell damage, attack speed. Gains Elemental as extra chaos damage, and that's very important because that mod is actually completely broken for Eternity Shroud, as it acts as every single portion of the thing gets converted to extra chaos damage. So all lightning damage gets converted to chaos, and then all cold, and then all fire, and this is all done before the converting happens. So every single portion of the chain gets affected. So you can pretty much think, since this person has full shaped items, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. So this is 45%. So this item here with this mod, gain 15% of elemental damage, extra chaos damage. It's a third of the Eternity Shroud. And because he has all shaped items, he pens everything, which is probably why his damage is so incredibly high. Now his helm is arc changed an additional time, and he has +1 power charge, some lightning damage to spells, and all damage for this build, lightning will always be the best because it's at the beginning of the conversion chain. So this helm is pretty much not that crazy. He could have gone nearby enemies, taken extra damage, but he chose to get lightning damage to spells, I think. Kind of interesting, but it is what it is. Now he allocates charisma. Is this an aura stacker or something? Why would you allocate charisma? I guess he wants aura effectiveness. And he pretty much just has life reservation, and then non-channeling skills have -7 to total mana cost. So this is kind of an interesting amulet. This amulet lets you know that this guy is not the richest person in the world, because this is a very weird amulet in terms of how good it could be, because he could get multi on it, he could get something else, he could have double influence and have pen of some sorts, but not too crazy. And then he has 2 shaped Call of the Brotherhoods, and this right here is the telltale sign of how rich a person is, right? Does the person have the money to get a double corrupted chest? And he really does not. He really does not. And the belt, he has cooldown recovery rate with life, and cooldown recovery rate is pretty much DPS in terms of what's it called, in terms of the damage of the build. And here he has 15% cooldown recovery rate, so this isn't even T1 cooldown recovery rate, and it's not even elevated tailwind. So the build mechanics are very, very strong, and that's why he does so much damage more than anything else. Now this like gloves is not even that crazy. Anytime you see single influence items, you know it's not that great. And he has inspired learning, which is very, very strange, but no headhunter, no shaped headhunter. If you want a shaped headhunter, it'd be really good for this build, I'm pretty sure. So his auras are Precise Commander, Vengeful Commander, Precise Commander, Vengeful Commander. So this is pretty much trying to stack crit chance and crit multi as much as possible. So let's take a look at this profile. Let's see how much crit multi he has. He has 384% with Cyclone, and Arc has 472%. That's kind of respectable, not too crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. So he doesn't really have these notes at the top, I'm pretty sure, and that brings it to like 120. So he probably doesn't have one of these nodes, and this is pretty accurate unless he doesn't take one of these travel points and he takes this stuff instead in the middle. But so this is kind of like a weird character. His tree is kind of like an aura stacker, except he's a trickster. So let's see why he's actually a trickster. So a lot of people want to play Eternity Shroud and be a trickster because of this node right here. So this has like a 27% chance to gain 100% of non-chaos damage with hits as extra chaos damage. So this is like elemental damage as extra chaos damage, but it also applies to Fizz. So if you unallocate this, it's actually an 18% damage increase or damage loss, or it gives you 22% damage. So this is, Trickster is actually not too bad. It also gives you power and frenzy charges, and you also gain it while channeling, so it's not too bad. So overall, this Ascendancy is actually pretty well synergized with Eternity Shroud. So maybe I'll try a Trickster one day. This node right here is actually kind of painful to see that he got. He must really need accuracy and crit chance, because 1, 2... I mean, it is what it is. So what is this jewel? Corrupted Soul. So he wants more ES. So he has 3.2k life, 2.179k ES. Not the tankiest build in the world, but it's interesting, right? And that's what all that matters. Watcher's Eye, Hatred, and Wrath. So he does seem to have some crit chance problems, which brings me to the Flask situation. And why does he not have a Bottle of Faith or Diamond Flask? I really do not know, because these flasks cannot be the best flasks, right? So a little trick here to anyone who wants to get the highest POE.NINJA DPS is you need to go to total DPS, and then you need to go to flask, and then it sorts it by the damage, right? So you want to go to flask slot here, and then you'll see what the #1 flask is. So if you were someone who wanted to like make your damage as high as possible, you would just start dragging these things over, right? Every single flask that you see here. And this would give you by far the most damage. So you can see all these flasks, he could have used these and he would have gone like 3 or 4 million more damage. So I'm not really sure. So you can see this guy is just playing the game for fun. He's not really trying to get a crazy damage number. And it just happens that cast on crit is kind of weird in POE.NINJA and gives a really high number. And he does have a really good archetype, of course, which is Eternity Shroud, which is the best thing in the game, of course. But his gear is not really that crazy, and he does make a lot of interesting choices. This is a multi, so you can see here he only has two multi jewels, and everything else is some unique jewels. I'm not really too sure about why he wants, what's it called, so much aura effect. It might just be the best scaling thing. So let's see how many auras he runs. He uses Divergent Herald of Ash, which is really strange because he doesn't really do fizz, but I guess he wants the extra overkill damage with fire. That's kind of interesting. He uses Wrath, Clarity, Hatred, Precision, so he runs this in a 6-link in his chest, which is pretty cool. Movement skill is Phantasmal Leap Slam, Enhanced Withering Step, faster attacks. And then he has Hydra Spear. So you can see this person here uses Anomalous Assassin Smart. So he has this Arcanist brand to put out the Hydra Spear and Assassin Smart and give Arcane Surge. And then he also uses Sigil of Power. So pretty interesting profile, and I'm interested to see how it plays. So I'm now gonna go look at a video because I actually did Google what Eternity Shroud Arc Clear or Path of Exile. Let's see what we see here, because I'm actually pretty interested to see if there's any of these builds. And let's see what. Oh, here we have Arc Occultist Eternity Shroud. So Asian people usually have the craziest builds, right? For what I see. So let's see what we see here. Look, of course, you see this build is not really. It's pretty much cast on crit, except this guy's an occultist, so he probably does a little bit less damage, or maybe more since he has 10 power charges. But clear speed is not really crazy. He also uses Sigil of Power. Not too bad, right? It's your standard. It's pretty much, this guy has Herald of Ice instead of Herald of Ash. So if you look at the skill, Arc is a pretty low impact MTX. And it pretty much is just, you see Heralds and you're pretty much doing Cyclone. So this guy actually uses Bottle Faith. But build seems pretty good. If you want to try out a different variant of a cast on crit build, I don't really know if I can fully recommend it as a top tier build. It's movement speed. Oh yeah, so whenever you want to see how good a build is, you kind of want to look at the movement speed. If it's not at least 200%, the build is going to feel awful to play just in general. So while I'm reviewing these profiles, I also wanted to talk about what makes actually a good build. So you want to have 200% move speed. You want to see higher EHP numbers in general. But it is what it is. This guy's playing something that's kind of hipster and kind of cool. And I was actually really surprised when I went to go review the #1 Arc DPS that I would not be doing an Aura Stacker. But I guess cast on crit is overpowered. But now I'm going to show a Kitava for my Gauntlet practice run. And yeah.
Inside my own world of make-believe, kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Overall, Gauntlet's going to be kind of interesting. I do think a lot of people will probably quit by the time before they even get through Act 1. Act 1 is really hard, I feel like, and the power curve of the game kind of feels really off to me in terms of the Gauntlet and just in general. Because usually, most games, you want to ease the player in, right? But if you look at Act 1, Act 1 has some horrific scaling. This zone right here to climb is so dangerous, especially when like people don't really like know how to save like a Quicksilver flash or something. But this zone has so much off-screen potential, and that's not even to talk about the hardest zone in the game might honestly be Coast. Coast is absolutely terrifying with the cannibals, and they just do so much damage. And part of the reason is also because you have no resist to start off the game. So it also seems really punishing that while you have no resist, the mobs are throwing some projectiles that actually just demolishes you while you have no resist. So the whole power curve just seems like it will be very unfriendly for new players. So my main advice if you want to try out the Gauntlet is try to max range stuff and use Caustic Arrow to kill it. And same if you're using a melee ability, use, I think it's called, it's not Lancing Steel, it's called Shattering, it's not Shattering Steel, it's Splitting Steel. And you pretty much treat it as a ranged attack because you don't want to be getting anywhere in melee. And also farm Expedition. Expedition is really OP. Yes. You might even get what's it called, a Tabula while playing, and I wouldn't even be that surprised if you got it. So let's see what I get. I'll take a chest out, and yeah, I was trying to get a Belly of the Beast, but I didn't get it. So hopefully this video has helped out everyone, and you will try out the Gauntlet maybe, or maybe try out that new Cast on Crit Arc build I showed you. Probably not, but thanks everyone for watching. I hope you found more mirrors and exalts than I do, and see you next time. Bye.